All right, so now let's start to move into some Keiwaza techniques. What we just looked at recently were Ashiwaza techniques, where we used our feet to harass our partner's feet when they were in a square stance. All right. Now let's look at some ways that we can use Keiwaza techniques, hand techniques, to harass our partner's feet when they're in a square stance above us. Essentially, coming up and attacking our partner's feet with our hands, feet and legs with our hands. It's so important to be able to play a trilemma between Ashiwaza techniques, Keiwaza techniques, and upper body gripping. So what that means is that I should always be able to switch at any given moment between harassing my partner's feet with my feet, harassing my partner's feet with my hands, and harassing my partner's hands, arms, and head with my hands. Okay? It's so much for your partner to deal with from top position. I come in, I harass my partner's feet. She steps a leg back. Now from here, I come up and I go to off balance my partner's foot, and I pull the foot out and I get her off balance. Now she's hopping, and as she's hopping, I catch her foot and I knock her back down onto her butt. We come in, we harass our partner's feet. She steps one leg back. I come up, I go to grab my partner's leg. She goes to step a leg back, away from me. I come through and I grab the second leg. And now we're in position ready to go. Now I come in and I enter into an Ashigurami. I start to off balance my partner. I start to put her hands on the floor, chase her back. I start to do all kinds of things from here. So just understanding the dynamic of attacking your partner's upper body. She goes to pull away. I go in with an arrangement of Ashiwaza techniques, foot techniques. Now, as she gets to pull a leg back, now we switch up and we go into hand techniques where we come through and start to off balance our partner. We start to use our hands against our partner's legs. And just understanding this basic concept of using a trilemma between Ashiwaza, foot technique, Keiwaza, hand technique, and upper body gripping to get our partner pulling away or coming in towards us will make it so difficult for your partner on top to even begin to think about passing your guard. And that's exactly what we want. All right, so now we're going to look at our Kabusa-Geishi series. Now, the ankle pick, for those of you who don't know. This works whether your partner is in a staggered stance or a square stance. We'll look at it first from a square stance. Now, there's some general rules that we like to look at based on your body position relative to your partner's. All right, we have a situation where our partner's standing in front of me. This is a very good combination, a Keiwaza technique where you attack your partner's legs with your hands, to combine with Ashiwaza where we start attacking our partner's feet and both pull back into Ashigurami situations. And we'll look at that. We'll look at that right now. Okay. So let's start off first with no grips, where you feel like you can't get a grip on our partner, whatever the case is. We're going to take a post hand to the floor and we're going to swish our legs to the outside like so. So we can come up into this athletic position quickly. And now we have a choice. We can stay inside of our partner's legs, or as we come up, we can move to the outside of our partner's legs. In general, if I stay on the outside of my partner's knees, I take inside ankle picks. If I stay in the inside of my partner's knees, I take outside ankle picks. So you have a choice. You can swish your legs. If your partner's in a staggered stance, it makes a little bit of a difference now which way I want to start moving my legs to. But if my partner's in a square stance, we're going to swish our legs to either direction because we're in a symmetrical position. And as we swish our legs, we come up into an athletic position. So legs move out to the side, hand posts, and I have good posture. Because my head is outside of my partner's knees, we're going to come through, we're going to post our left hand on the floor. Now, we're going to take our right hand, our inside hand, and we're going to connect our pinky to the floor behind our partner's Achilles. So we're at the long end of the lever. Now we're going to pull in line with the toes, along the line of the floor, and we're going to sit our partner down to the floor. Okay? So our first one is we come through, we swish our legs. as we come up, we post the hand, and we just move in like so. And now as we pull, we can set our partner down to the ground. This is with an inside ankle pick when we're outside of our partner's knees. This time, as we come in, we switch our legs. We move into a position where we got to catch our partner's leg. My partner now is smart. Before I can get to the leg, she steps this leg back and away from me. But just as always, it leaves the leg behind. Whenever I see the leg is left behind, we move from an inside grip to a reverse grip, where we catch inside of our partner's ankle on the opposite side by switching our hands like so. And then we just pull our partner's foot out, we set our partner down to the floor. So initially, we're playing in a seated guard. We move, we post the right hand, switch to the legs, we come up outside of our partner's knee. We post the left hand. If we can catch our partner's knee or leg, perfect. If the leg goes to move away from me, we set our partner down to the floor. All right, so we're playing in here, we're fighting, whatever the case is. She goes to step her leg back. We sit our partner right down to the ground. Okay? Now this time we find ourselves in a position where instead of going outside the knees, we switch her and we stay inside the knees. Now from this position I have a post hand, I have good posture, actual good posture where my shoulders are squared, and from here we have hand on the floor. Now we reach down, we don't commit our head to low singles and things like that, where our partner can start sprawling on us. We just reach with the hand, like so. And now from here, we set our partner down to the ground. If, as we come up, we're inside the knees, our partner goes to step a leg back, we go to an inside ankle on the opposite side, and we sit our partner down to the floor. So, we're playing, we come up inside, and now from here, we go 1, if we catch, perfect. She goes to step back, we catch 2, perfect. Okay? So, as a general rule, if we're outside the knees, we go inside the ankle. If we're inside the knees, we initially go outside the ankle. So we come outside the knees, we catch, we sit our partner down to the floor. We come to the outside again, she goes to step back, and we sit our partner down to the floor. We come to the inside, and we sit our partner to the floor. We come to the inside, she steps back, and we sit our partner to the floor. Okay? So that's our general idea with picking ankles and going to attacks from there. Now what we're going to look at next is what happens if my partner leans her way onto the forefoot and stays standing. It's great to be able to knock my partner down. If I can come up and I can get an immediate sit down, and sit my partner down, that's great. But a lot of times, as we come up, our partner will lean the weight into the opposite leg. As I pull this leg up, opposite leg, and she'll stay standing. The question is, what do we do from here? Okay, let's take a look at that next. Okay, so now we're going to look at how we can combine Ashigurami pulls, Tewaza techniques, and Ashiwaza techniques, whether we start with Tewaza or Ashiwaza. Okay, so let's say, for example, my partner's standing in front of me. Let's say I want to start with an Ashiwaza technique, a foot technique. I get my partner off balance, an initial kazushi, constantly off balancing my partner. I go for a double kuichi, let's say, for example. She steps her leg back. The second she goes to step back, as she's stepping back, I come up. Now we off balance our partner. Okay? So we get our partner off balance with first an Ashiwaza. She goes to step back, and now from here, we come up, and we're immediately off balancing our partner. Or, let's say, for example, we start by coming up, we catch our partner's leg like so. Now the specific ways that we grab our partner's feet with 2-on-1, depending on what grips we start with. All right, let's run through that. We come up, and we're on the outside of our partner's knees. So we swish our legs, post, switch a post hand, and then we come through. If we start with our hand inside of our partner's ankle, and she hops in the far leg, where she doesn't fall over, if she goes to run away from me, we switch. So the hand goes from the Achilles and slides to the inside of my partner's foot. And then I grab that same 2-on-1 where I have a hand behind the Achilles and a hand inside my partner's the sole of my partner's foot. You guys can play with this yourself. When your partner goes to run away, it's fucking hard to get away. Okay? Let's say we come through, we start on the outside of our partner's legs. I'm going to grab my partner's initial lead leg. She goes to step the leg back, and we switch our hands like so. Now from here, as I pull my partner's leg up, we make a switch. My left hand comes in, grabs the inside of my partner's foot. This will prevent my partner's toes from turning away from me and eliciting a strong kick-out reaction in that direction initially. So we grab, we switch to the toes. As she goes to turn away from me, my hand slides, and we move to the back of the Achilles. And now we're in the same grip we just had, where she goes to pull away, and it's not easy to do. Okay? So this first two, we're outside of our partner's knees. So we switch to the legs, we come up, we go to grab, she goes to pull away. She goes to pull away, and we come through. I pull his foot off the floor, but she stays standing. As she stays standing, we grab the inside of the foot to prevent the toes from turning away from me initially. Now she goes to give a strong pull. We switch with the hand moved from the inside, and we just circle to the outside like so. So now she goes to pull away from me. It's not an easy thing. So those are the two from when we have our head outside of our partner's knees. We switch our feet. We come to the inside. She goes to run away, and we catch. She backs the leg away. She goes to run away, and we catch. We go to the inside of our partner's legs. We go outside with our hand. This time as she goes to run away, I catch the inside of my partner's foot with my right hand so her toes can't turn away. So as I go to pull the foot off balance, she goes to run, and we catch. Now I pull my partner in. This time, I'm inside my partner's legs. I try to go for one leg, she steps back. We go inside. This time, as my left hand slides down, my right hand replaces my left hand on the back of the Achilles, and we catch. Now she goes to run away from me. It's very difficult. If you guys watch this, again, Pedro Marini, I did it too. I did it to Tim Spriggs. It's a Cyborg. There's numerous matches where you guys can watch me grab simple 2-on-1s on the legs just like this, and the guys go to yank away. It's shockingly difficult. I just said shockingly difficult to get away. Okay, so in general, what we want is one hand in the back of the Achilles and one hand controlling the inside of my partner's foot so that the toes can't turn away. And once we have a strong 2-on-1, it's so difficult. All right, so if we go to the outside, we catch. She goes to run, and we catch. She steps back. We go inside, she goes to run, and we catch. We're inside the legs, our hand grabs outside, she goes to run, and we catch. We're inside the legs, we go in, we go to catch, she goes to run, and we catch. Now, whenever I sit into these positions, the finishing hand position is the same. So we have 2 or 3 great options, okay? If you feel like you just cannot pull your partner in, they're running as hard as they can away from you, then there's back exposure. Okay? So from whatever position we're in, we come through, we catch our partner's ankle. Now from here, I feel like she's scrambling away from me. She puts her hands on the floor, maybe he goes to run away. She just pulls me up into her, and then we come up and we start attacking our partner's back. That's perfect. Okay? So we come up into this position, we switch our legs, we come through, and we're playing here. We put a grip on our partner's leg, and as she goes to run away, now we're up and we can start going into back attacks on our partner. From this position, this time, we come through, we catch, she goes to run away, and we sit down to our butt. Now we have 2 great options from here. One is if my partner is hopping with any amount of height to try to run away from me. Let's say she doesn't get her hands to the floor yet, but she's hopping hard, that she's pushing hard off the floor. She wants to run away from me. Then we use an ashiwaza to start harassing this foot with the diashi harai, like so. So if I get a big hop, we sit our partner down to the floor, and then we can either go right into attacks on our partner's legs, come up and go into passes, and a bunch of things we can do from there. So if I see, and this takes a while to get good at, if I see that I come up, my partner goes to run, I sit back to my butt. Now from here, I see that this small hop is going to be difficult to time. But if I see there's a big hop and I see an opportunity, I take my foot and I just sweep, again, along the floor, in line with the toes, and as she goes to hop, send our partner down to the ground. Now we can either switch to a scoop grip, they can go to passes, we can do all kinds of things from here. And finally, we come up, our partner goes to run, we catch. Now as we sit down, we take our 2 feet in, and we just pull our partner back into Ashigurami once again, and from here, we can go into an incredibly good attacking position on our partner's legs. With this specific technique, it's less important to put a wedge behind your partner's far hamstring. In previous techniques, my partner had very good balance. So I would have to put shoelaces behind the hamstring and get her bridging to get her off balance to prevent the back step, okay? If she's relatively balanced, she can V-grip my ankle, intercept it, and now I'm getting past. But because my partner's already hopping on a leg, when she tries to back step from here, she's already off balance. She's moving from 3 or 4 feet away, and when I go to pull her in, if she tries to back step, it's very, very difficult, okay? So, let's look once again at our options, okay? So, as we know, we have inside the knees, inside the knees, and outside the knees, here. If my partner has weight on the leg that we're attacking, she'll fall down, like so. If my partner has a weightless leg, and she's smart, she'll end up here. If my partner steps a leg back, and now she has weight all the way on this leg, as she steps her right leg back, there's weight on the left leg, and she'll fall down. If I find my partner hopping, like so, and I feel like she's really trying to get away, just puts her hands on the floor, tries to push away, just let it pull you up, and chase, start going into attacks on my partner's back. If I feel she's hopping, and I sit to my butt and she's giving me big, strong hops, we set our partner down to the floor. If I feel that I can't time the diashi perfectly, I just put 2 feet on the floor and I pull my partner back in. We enter into an ashigurami, and now we're ready to go right into attacks on our partner from here. Okay, so 3 great options with combinations of ashiwazas, teiwazas, and pulling ourselves into ashigurami. All right, if our partner runs away and we feel like they're going to pull us up on top, just go for the back. If our partner's hopping, we have the choice of either pulling our partner into ashigurami or using a combination of using hands first to get the kazushi and feet second with the ashigurami to take our partner's second foot out as they're hopping. And it's just such a dangerous combination where you start to feel now, when you get good at this, like people just can't even stand in front of you. That's who you want. All right, so now, just as we talked about using these teiwaza techniques from no grips or from double koichis, we could also use them from upper body transitions. So let's say we get into a position where I have a 2-on-1 on my partner, like so. Where now from here, anytime you have 2-on-1s or arm drags in your partner, 2-on-1s, as your partner goes to pull away, any pullback reaction will immediately allow me to start coming up, attacking my partner's feet. Okay? Anytime I make a 2-on-1 elbow, she goes to pull away from me, she's pulling away hard, I can start to pass my partner's elbow by and come through and elevate my partner's foot. Anytime we have an arm drag grip, my partner goes to pull away, we can come up, we can catch our partner's feet and start to go to immediate off balances. Okay? All we need is a pullback reaction. What we don't want is to just come up right away and to have the fear of getting sprawled on. If you're going to come up with no grips, I recommend going to the outside of your partner's knees. If I come up to the inside of my partner's knees and I try to reach, your partner can shoot to a front headlock and now you're getting sprawled on. So if you're going to come up, I recommend moving to the outside. So I swish my legs, I come up to the outside, where now she has to adjust the position before she can sprawl on me. And as she goes to adjust, immediately catching my partner's legs and going into attacks on my partner. Okay? Whereas if we have a 2-on-1, now we have a choice. Now if we go 2-on-1, for example, she goes to pull away. I don't have to come outside the knees. I can come inside the knees, and as she has to pull away from me, now she can't sprawl because she's off balanced. Or I can go to the outside. She goes to pull away, and I off balance her to the outside of the knees. Right? But this gives you just another way of off balancing your partner. You can go double kuishi. She steps back, and we're off balance. You go double kuishi. She steps back, and we're off balance. We go double kuichi, or we go 2-on-1. She goes to pull back, and we off balance. She goes to post my head. We go 2-on-1 elbow. She goes to pull back, and we get an off balance. Okay? Constant kazushis harassing my partner's feet. So as we get pull back reactions, I like to go on and start going into attacks on our partner. That's what we want. Okay? So anytime you have backwards people pulling away from you and trying to stall, get away from your grips, that's when it's a perfect time to start combining these foot sweeps, harassing our partner's feet with ashiwaza techniques, and coming up and using hands to start harassing our partner's feet. We can also use pass-offs, where I come up, I go one hand, and now I switch to the second hand. I pull my partner in. Now we can start going in, grabbing both of our partner's legs, sliding back underneath, all kinds of things. Right? So while we have two-hand feeds, we go to 2-on-1s, we also have one-handed pass-offs. Where initially, I get my partner out of balance, and then instead of trying to cross my body, I just switch. I pull my partner further than she was expecting to go. So I come up. We can get our partner stepping incredible distances by using these pass-offs from various situations. She steps the leg back maybe, so maybe I come up. She has to step the leg back. She has to step the leg back. Okay? And it's just so versatile. These grips to getting your partner constantly off balance makes it so fucking annoying for someone to stand up on top of you. All right, so now let's look at a technique that I actually don't claim to have invented or haven't learned from John. These two are actually from Imanari, the inventor of the Imanari roll, and the reverse Imanari, which Ryan Hall actually used in one of his MMA fights, and John showed it to us. So we'll start first with the reverse Imanari, and when our partner steps the leg back, we'll go into the regular Imanari. Okay, our partner standing up in front of us. We swish our legs. They come up outside of our partner's legs like so. Now instead of going down to the ankle, I'm going to go into almost like a hamstring grab, like I'm going into a high crotch. From this position, I'm going to pull myself in, and I'm going to fall down to my right shoulder. So I'm going to take my knee to the outside of my partner's foot, and I'm going to pull myself into a position where my elbow and bicep control my partner's ankle on one side, and my rib cage controls my partner's leg on the other side. When my partner goes to pull her leg out from here, that's not an easy thing to do. All right. From this position, I have this concave shoulders. I throw my legs up into position. We take our heel to our partner's buttocks. Now, once my legs come into position, it's okay for me to loosen up this grip with my right hand. As my hips come up, we scissor the legs, and now you have a beautiful cross-hashi entrance. When she gets to push my legs down once again, it's very difficult. Now we can look to sit our partner down to the floor by getting to the second leg and bring our hips down to the ground. Okay? So, this is the reverse Imanari. The normal Imanari, we go inside the leg. This time, we go inside the leg and we rotate like so. That's what we're going to do next. This time, we're going to reverse Imanari. So we're playing from here. We swish our legs, we come up, and we grab the inside of our partner's hamstring. From this position, our knee comes to the outside of our partner's foot. We fall down to our back. When our partner goes to pull her leg out and away, it's very, very difficult. So we're going to take our foot up and through, just like we did in our drill before. And now from here, we can pull ourselves up and chop our right knee down behind our partner's knee. Have strong ashi entrances with cross ashigarami. And now when she has to push my knee down, it's difficult. We can easily access our partner's second leg. And as we knock her down, we figure for the legs and we're in position to go. Okay? This is the reverse Imanari. Look at the Imanari next and our partner steps the leg back. Alright, so now we're going to look at the Imanari roll, inventor Imanari, where we're essentially a rolling entry into the legs. The way most people show an Imanari roll is like this, where we come up either to our knees or we get close enough to our partner, we take a hand inside and we roll through, we throw our legs up and we enter into an ashigarami. The problem with this is it offers no way to create a strong connection to your partner's leg. It's not very robust. So the second you go in, you see this. I go to throw my hand into place, my partner just steps her leg out, turns away, and now you just spin around the mat. Okay? What I want when I go into this Imanari is initially, we're going to come up and we're going to go to hit an initial catching our partner's leg, either at the hamstring or down at the ankle. As she goes to step the leg away from me, now she's a weighted leg. Now we take our hand inside of our partner's leg, and as we fall, we catch the second hand, and we put our rear deltoid over our partner's shoelaces. Here. So now we have a strong connection to our partner's leg, where the shoelaces are wedged in place, and I have a wedge on each side of my partner's leg with two hands, two false grips. Now, when she goes to pull away, it's not difficult. She'll drag me along the mat before her leg comes out. And now from here, we throw leg up into place, and we're ready to come in and attack our partner's legs. Notice that as I come through, it's difficult for me to create an angle if my head is on the outside of my partner's leg. If I stay here and I try to create an angle, you get stuck in your partner's head. Or your head gets stuck in your partner's leg. So as I come through, she goes to pull the leg back, we come in. Now as we go, our head comes to the inside, and we make a transition where we sit our partner down to the floor. So initially, we come up, our partner goes to step the leg back. Now we come through, and as we go, initially we catch. So when my partner goes to pull the leg out, initially it's difficult. Now I can't stay here, because eventually she's going to pull the leg free, but I can't enter in from this position. So my rear deltoid glues to my partner's shoelaces, and then the initial pull away is difficult. Go ahead. And now my head moves to the opposite side, and now my neck covers the shoelaces. Now when she goes to pull away from me, it's difficult still. But now because my head's on the inside of the legs, it makes the entry into cross ashi extremely easy, and now we can easily set our partner down from this position. So what it'll look like, if you're playing here, we go to reach for our partner's leg, she goes to step away, we roll into our partner's leg, we come in with a beautiful Imanari roll. So the key is to form an initial connection to our partner's leg through false grips and controlling our partner's shoelaces with our shoulder and head. So we come to the outside, we go to catch our partner's leg, she goes to step away. We connect our hand, the back of our hand, to the inside of our partner's calf muscle. Now, as we fall down to our hip, we initially come through into this position. Now, this is all happening very quickly. As she goes to pull away, the second she sees me reaching for the leg and spinning, she's going to try to pull away. As she tries to pull away, she can't. Now I make a switch from my rear deltoid to my neck on the inside of the shoelaces. When she goes to pull away a second time, it's still difficult. And now it's easy to fire. My legs up and over, and sit. My partner down to the floor. If you try to do it, with your head on the outside, it's going to feel very awkward. you can get your legs into position, no problem. But then when you go to create an angle, your head gets stuck in place. The initial inversion drill we did in the beginning, our legs are on the inside. This makes it easy to cut an angle. So we start with our head here. And now as she goes to pull out and away from me, we switch to here. And now we fire our legs up into place. We sit our partner to the floor. So it'll look something like this. So playing. And now we're ready to go in and break our partner from cross Hashigurami. One more time. So we come up. She goes to step a leg away from me. We come through. Initially, as we fall, she goes to pull out and away. Difficult. Now her head moves. The whole time she's put tension like you're trying to run away from her. We set our partner down. Now we're ready to go in. So the key to hitting an M&R roll is that initial connection to our partner's leg through a wedge on both sides and a wedge on top of our partner's shoelaces, either with our rear deltoid or our neck and head. All right, guys, so now we're going to look at our first introduction, real introduction to the staggered stance, okay? Everything we've done so far has been with an opponent with a squared stance. Now we're going to look at an opponent who starts to play with a staggered stance instead. Okay, so I gave you guys a little bit of an introduction into a staggered stance in the beginning, but now we're going to go an in-depth look at how we're going to deal with an opponent who staggers their legs and is more mobile, moving side to side. All right? So once again, my partner has a lead leg and a trail leg. This is great for her. Okay, she's able to put side-to-side pressure on me now, and she's much more mobile when she's moving. Okay, my partner can feint with the lead leg. She can threaten going around to the side. She can threaten stepping in the middle. She can do all kinds of things from here. All right, the general idea for her is she has to start either threatening to get past my hip line, which will force either back exposure, or for me to fall down to my back, where now she can either, one, keep coming around to get past the hip line and possibly past the shoulder line and pass from here, like we talked about in the passing instructionals. Or, as she goes to step past my hip line, I fall down to my back and I go to recover, and then she shoves the leg down and forces me into a split squat, into half guard where she drops her knee down, and then she starts passing in from here. Okay, all the things we looked at when we were going through this passing instructional. So for me, when my partner moves to a staggered stance, I also have to move to a staggered stance. And just like we talked about before, if my partner's right lead forward, I have to switch to my right hip and use my right leg to monitor my partner's lead leg. All right. Now, like we talked about a little bit, was distance management with myself and my partner. I will either want to be so far away from my partner where she has to take multiple steps towards me, where as she goes to come in, I can react accordingly and block my partner's feet. Close enough to my partner where from here I can make some kind of grip, either on the lower body or on the upper body, okay? Where I come through and start to play with our partner's arms and legs like so. I don't want to be in a position where our partner has a staggered stance and I'm squared in front of my partner, where now she can just shoot to either side and start to put real pressure on me and put me in a lot of danger. Okay, so I want to be close enough to create some kind of grip on my partner, whether it be here or here, far enough away where I can react, where she goes to step in and I can meet her halfway in the middle, or halfway through. Where I don't want to be is where I can't really make any grip on my partner at all, but she's one step away from just shooting past my legs. Okay? The first thing we're going to look at is how to maintain this distance. Right? If my partner's doing a good job of feinting with the lead leg and stepping to the inside, if she comes forward into me, she can move much faster than I can. Okay? I'm sitting on my butt. So what I want is not to move straight backwards for my partner. If she moves forward towards me, I can always block my partner's lead leg. But if my partner feints with the lead leg, it's going to be difficult for me to move straight backwards and beat her if she starts feinting to go to the outside and then eventually steps in the middle. All right? So as she goes to walk forward, if I just walk straight backwards with her, eventually she's going to get to the inside, and now I'm going to get beat from here. Now I have to fall down to my back with this front head locked into more danger. So instead, what I'm going to do is have a look to go into a circular motion, where as my partner goes to step in, I'm going to circle into the space my partner was just in, okay, just like in striking. Where if my partner goes to punch, and I go to pivot off, I don't step straight back in the line. I look to pivot off into the space my partner was just in. It's the same concept here. Where from here, as my partner goes to step towards me, I'm constantly scooting outside of my partner's legs. So I don't go straight back and have her fainting and coming into me, and eventually she steps to the inside. I constantly create an angle where I scoot outside of my partner's lead leg. Where as she goes to walk in, I block, I block, I block, I block. And then if she goes to take a big step to the outside, now I can start off balancing her and creating more position and back exposure there. So I always want to look to create an angle where I come outside my partner's lead leg. So that from here, once she lifts the leg, I can either feed to a position where now I can go and shin to shin and play from here, where now I force her into a square stance, or she has to take a big step out in this direction, and I off balance her, and now I look to create back exposure from this position, okay? Or move into all of our Tewaza techniques where I get an initial off balance, and then as she goes to square up, we come in, we off balance our partner like so, okay? So generally speaking, with a squared or staggered stance, if my partner plays with a staggered stance, I have to play with the staggered stance as well to force my partner to only be able to pass to one side. And as I'm doing that, the whole thing is, my whole goals are constant kazushi and distance management. What I don't want is for my partner to just be able to move freely in front of me and pick her shots. I always want to be constantly harassing my partner's feet, off balancing. As she goes to step, I'm playing here, I'm off balancing, I'm feeding in. I'm going so kuichi. She goes to step, I'm feeding it across, and I'm off balancing my partner. Okay? And the second you can start to realize that if my partner has a staggered stance, I have to be in a staggered stance, everything becomes much easier because now my partner can only pass in one direction. And again, if she switches sides, I have to also switch sides. Now we play the whole game that we're going to look at right from here, whether it be with Ashiwaza or with Tewaza techniques. Now when we use Tewaza techniques, everything remains the same. We can come inside the legs, we can come outside the legs, if our partner goes a step back, we can go inside the opposite leg. All the Tewaza techniques that we looked at remain the same from here, just the setups are a little different. But all the actual techniques where I come inside, go outside, I switch across, she steps back, they all remain the same. So I'm not going to redo those, but just know those are available when my partner has a lead leg and a trail leg. Okay, we're just going to look at different setups with both Koichis, Hiyashi Hirais, and we're going to look to chain Ashigarami entrances into those as well. Okay, now there are two different ways that my opponent can play when they're playing a staggered stance. Okay, she can either play with a staggered stance with her feet far away from me and the hands doing most of the work, where she's in here and it's hard to get any connection to the lower body, or she can stand more upright where her hands are still in front but her legs are coming forward and she's trying to step a leg to the inside. Okay, the idea behind this is that if you're feinting with the lead leg, your head's relatively upright and you're feinting to get a leg either to the outside or to the inside. Okay, if the legs are back and away, you want to hide the legs, play a relatively conservative game from here, and then look to shoot past the legs all at one time. Okay, so when my partner goes to step inside, we're going to look to go into shin to shin and attack my partner's legs. If my partner's playing a cagey game where I feel like I can't enter into my partner's legs and she's playing just with the hands forward, then we're going to go into attacks on my partner's upper body. All right, so we're going to look at next the combination of one, attacking my partner's legs versus attacking my partner's upper body. And this is dependent upon where my partner's shoulders are relative to her hips. If her shoulders are far in front of the hips and the legs are back and away, it's going to be difficult now to make any grips of my partner's legs. I don't want to be reaching here. Then my partner can dive into front heads and start to go into all of her attacks. If my partner's shoulders are closer to being over her hips and she's more in an upright stance, then it's going to be pretty easy for me to come through and get some kind of connection to my partner's lower body. Okay, so depending on where your partner's shoulders and head are, that's going to determine whether or not we grab the hands first, and then as she goes to peel, we go in and look to either make secondary grips or 2-on-1s, and she goes to peel my hand off, and now we can start grabbing the rear hand and pulling the foot forward. Or if I can go right in and get a strong connection to my partner's legs, and we'll go into Ashigarami, to X-guard, and all kinds of attacks from there. Okay, so just so you guys understand, the play between the lower body attacks and the upper body attacks is contingent upon your partner's shoulder and head position relative to their hips. All right, so now let's talk about an opponent who's has a staggered stance, but is leaning forwards. The hands are presented to me, and the feet are still pretty far away from me. All right, so most of the grip fighting is going to occur on the hands now. Now it's pretty naive to think that I'm just going to be able to reach out and grab my partner's hands. Okay, the only time I can grab my partner's hands is if she's posting on my shoulders. We can grab a 2-on-1 and start to work from here. If she's posting on my head, we can grab a 2-on-1 and work from here. But if my partner's not allowing me to get grips in, I can't just grab a 2-on-1. Okay. So what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to take my my outside hand, and use an outside V grip on my partner's wrist and push the hand in like so. Now from here, I can switch off where I take two hands and I grab them like so, and now I go to switch to a 2-on-1. This happens pretty easily. If I just try to reach out and grab my partner's hand, and she goes to move it, it's hard to catch my partner's hand. But I can always take my hand and grab and push the hand down like so. Where now I can start to go into arm drag grips, or I can start to move down to 2-on-1 elbows. We can do a variety of grips from here. So we can either use an initial arm drag, where I start getting my partner walking forward, and most of the time she'll step this leg forward, and now from here we can come in shin to shin, and we can play right from this grip where now I have my partner's legs closer to me, and we can go into a strong connection. So as she goes to pull the arm out, the legs stay behind. More than likely what will happen is as I go to make a switch to a 2-on-1 where I come through, and then we go here, and we switch to a 2-on-1 wrist, or we switch to a 2-on-1 elbow, like so. She'll use her second hand to start peeling my grip off. If my partner just tries to walk backwards away from me, she'll never ever peel either one of these grips off if you have sticky grips. Okay? And as she goes to walk back and away from me, after our double quichies come in, just as we talked about before, my partner squares her stance. Okay? So as I go into a 2-on-1, and we look to grab our partner, when my partner goes to use her second hand to peel my hand off, the only way she can peel my grip off with the 2-on-1 wrist is to pull one hand off with her second hand, and now to pommel her hand in between the space of the fingers, as we talked about before. So she has to use her second hand. As my partner goes to use her second hand, I'm going to switch across, rotate a little bit. I'm going to switch across to grab my partner's wrist, across wrist here, peel her hand off, and now move it either to a 2-on-1 wrist or 2-on-1 elbow. Both are very good. The second I get this grip, before my partner can go to peel my hand off with her near hand, I immediately pull that far leg towards me, and now what do we have? We have my partner in a square stance, where now we can go to all the attacks that we did in the previous section, which we'll look at in a second. But what I want initially is to recognize that I'm fighting my partner's hands from here. The legs are too far away. What I don't want is to be reaching toward my partner's legs, and then I get snapped into our heads and all kinds of bad things start to happen. So my partner's hands are presented to me. So I'm fighting my partner's hands. I'm in a staggered stance. I'm always ready with my right hand to move into a position where I can move forwards and backwards. If at any point my partner's fighting with the hands and she's stagnant and she goes to shoot past my legs, I'm immediately circling out inside my partner's lead leg. Okay? And at any point I can come up and start to attack my partner's legs with any kind of teiwazi gripping. All right? But initially my partner's not moving, I can't get to the legs. So we use an outside grip, we start to control our partner's wrist, moving either into a 2-on-1 elbow, moving right to a drag, or moving to a 2-on-1 wrist. As our partner goes to use the second hand to start peeling the grip off, we go cross wrist and we strip the grip off. We move immediately to a 2-on-1 elbow. And now we draw our partner's leg towards us, and now we're ready to go into all of our moves right off of this. Okay? So let's look at, as we square our partner, what our initial reaction should be the second we put her into a square stance by gathering that far arm. All right, so now we're going to look at immediately going into off balances the second we draw our partner's far leg towards us. Okay, so we've established that grip fighting is always very important. We should never allow from any open guard, my partners to constantly win the grip fighting exchanges by grabbing my wrist, grabbing my head, grabbing my ankles. Okay, we should always be pommeling to asymmetrical gripping positions where I have 2-on-1s in my partner. All right, always looking to bring elbows across the center line where we can come up and go into all of our teiwazi techniques, and always looking to constantly get our partner off balance, either pulling towards me or pushing back and away from me. That's what we're going to look at right now. So we come in and we take an initial 2-on-1 on our partner, where we switch up, and now our partner goes to peel our hand off. As our partner goes to peel our hand, we get our partner stepping forward. Now I suddenly take my left foot to the inside of my partner's foot, like so. So as I draw my partner forward, I immediately have a right leg action leg. So we're going to go right into a double koichi. So as my partner is coming forward, my goal is to catch her as she's stepping. So I pull her foot a little bit further than where she expected to step. And as I do that, I push over my partner through, and I use this 2-on-1 to tuck my leg in on the same side and pull myself up immediately. So we can go right into all of our attacks with guard passing or whatever you want from there. Okay? So we come in, we get an initial grip on our partner. Our partner goes to peel the grip off, we come in. Now notice my leg is subtly moving from a position where it's not connected to where it is. So the second I take a 2-on-1 and she steps, I'm immediately up and ready to go. Right? All I want is to get my partner stepping a little bit further than she expected. Okay, if you see good judo players, when they go to make grips on my partner's collar and sleeve, when they do a little bit push, if our partner goes to step back, they push a little bit more. If our partner goes to walk forward, they pull a little bit more, and they get them stepping just a little bit further than they thought they were going to step. All right? So that's my goal here. If my partner thinks that she's going to step here, I want to drag the foot out and make her step here. That's all I'm looking to do. So we go in, we take a 1-on-1, we move to a 2-on-1 wrist or 2-on-1 elbow. As our partner goes to peel our grip off, we access this far hand, and we come through and we get to the elbow. It's completely unrealistic to ever think that we're just going to grab our partner's far hand. We're always only going to have access to our partner's near hand. So we initially go by attacking the near hand. The far hand comes in. We peel. Now we're at the far hand. Now as we pull our partner in, our left foot moves in this case, and as she goes to step, we pull, and now we're ready to go. Now she's in a squared stance. She's already falling backwards, and that final push with the right hand knocks my partner over. So as I get her stepping, and as she's falling, that backwards momentum pulls me up. I don't wait until my partner's butt's on the floor and then we scramble up. It's as she's falling, I'm pulling myself forwards. Okay? So what it'll look like, if we're playing here, I gotta make a grip of my partner's arm, they come through. Now as I pull my partner in, and now we're ready to go. And with a 2-on-1, we can go right into our pressure passing right from half guard. That's a double koichi. After we force our partner to square her stance, we have an intelligent opponent who chooses to stand staggered. We force them into a square stance to expose the center line, and we immediately hit kazushis backwards and go right into all of our attacks right off of that. All right, so now let's look at the interplay between using upper body grips to draw the legs towards me and to enter into various types of ashigarami. Okay, so we're going to look at using drag grips to enter into the near leg, and using grips in the far arm to pull the second leg towards me and to enter into both legs with ashigarami and X-guard entrances. All right, so anytime that my partner has a staggered stance but denies me the legs initially, we can always use any kind of 2-on-1 or arm drag grips to get my partner stutter stepping and bringing this leg towards me. Where now I can easily come in and go shin to shin, and we can enter into all of our ashigaramis. All right, where again, I want to make sure that I get my partner stepping forwards with the leg, and I don't fall straight back. I always rotate my head towards my partner's far heel, getting a weightless leg, and then throwing my legs into position. Okay? So anytime we can get grips in the upper body, we can always force my opponent to give me the legs. And if my partner absolutely backs the legs away from me and won't give me the legs and squares her stance to really pull away from me, that's when we just come in and we go double koichi and we start knocking them backwards. So we play this game where my partner has a few choices. If she stays in this position with a staggered stance, she has no choice but to either, one, let me pull the leg towards me, and now I can connect to my partner's lower body, where now it takes away mobility, where she can't jump side to side and pass my guard. She has to, two, base heavily and start squaring her stance more than it already was and start pulling away as hard as she can, and that allows me to walk into my partner and then start pushing backwards. Or she has to immediately start peeling the grips with her second hand, and that gives me access to the rear hand and access to the rear leg in turn. Okay? So we play this trilemma, where if my partner has a staggered stance and we can't get to the legs, we always go upper body first. Where now, I either pull my partner forwards, 1, and get to the legs, 2. 2, I make a grip, my partner goes to pull away from me and squares the stance, and we hop in and we off-balance our partner backwards. Or 3, my partner comes in, she peels my grip off, and now we look to pull our partner's far leg into us and go into attacks on my partner's far leg. Now, when we go into attacks on my partner's far leg, we can enter in a few different ways. So if we have the near leg, we can go into an ashigarami on this leg. When I pull my partner's far leg towards me, like so, we can catch over our partner's far foot, and we can use a similar entrance as we did before in the previous chapter, where I bump my partner forward, and we enter right into an ashigarami on the far leg. So what this will look like is we're playing, my partner goes to peel my grip off, I access the far hand, and now instead of pulling the near leg towards me, my partner's worried about this leg. I pull the second leg towards me, and as the second leg comes towards me, we immediately catch and hit an initial kazushi, so my partner can't backstep, all right? Or an additional kazushi. So the initial kazushi is my partner goes to strip the grip off, we get that leg stepping towards us. Now she thinks she's set, her base is in place. I grab over the leg, and again, I make sure that I have an initial stickiness. So I glue my shin to my partner's calf muscle, and I catch behind my partner's Achilles. So when she goes to palm the leg free initially, she can't. If I just catch here, and she kicks the leg forward, she can easily take the leg free. So we form an initial stickiness. Now when she goes to pull the leg back, it's difficult. Now I scoot in, and what I don't want to get, remember, is to have my partner immediately grab my ankle and backstep through. And now she's gone. So as I go to enter into my partner's legs, we have a wrist control. We bump our partner forward, so when she goes to backstep, we get that initial off balance, where now we can go right into kazushi and start to off balance my partner with all of our attacks from ashigarami. In addition to this, we can get our partner's far leg coming towards us, and we can immediately scoop inside my partner's legs, and now we have X-guard entrances, which is what we'll look at, and we also have all of our Imanari rolls in. We did in the last segment. Okay. More commonly, X-guard is probably the more high percentage option. Where from here I scoop inside my partner's leg, and now again, as I scoop, I have to get my partner off balance in this direction. But I don't want to just scoot in and try to throw my legs into place, and then she just backsteps right away, and I'm getting my guard passed. So we can either go ashigarami, near leg, okay, where we can easily scoot out. I'm going to do an ashigarami here, we talked about before. We can go into an ashigarami far leg, where we scoot in and we enter in. We can go into an X guard, where we scoop the leg and push our partner out and away, and move right into an X guard / reverse X guard from here. Or we can move into an Ashi X. The differentiation between an X guard and an Ashi X is an Ashi X goes over with an Achilles grip, and a regular X guard goes under with a scoop grip. So if we want to go to Ashi X, it's the same thing, except for we bump our partner forwards, and instead of throwing our feet into an Arimi Ashigarami, we throw our feet right into an X guard instead, and then immediately put our partner's hands on the floor. Okay, so we have a bunch of good options on both legs from here. We play a game, if we can't get to the legs right away, with the lead hand. Now as you go to look to grip the lead hand, she goes to peel the grip off, I go far hand. I draw the far leg towards me. I can go double koichi, 1. I can go either leg, all right? So her stance is squared from here. So I can grab this leg, I can enter. I can grab this leg, and I can enter. I can go over the top and bump our partner forward in the opposite direction, either with X guard or ashigarami. Or I can pull her far leg towards me. I can go over and enter into a straight Arimi Ashigarami. I can enter into an Ashi X, where I bump my partner, move right to an X guard with an overhook. Okay, this is an Ashi X, where I have control of my partner's leg with an Achilles grip. And this is an X guard, where I have control of my partner's leg with a scoop grip. And I can enter right into an X guard by scooping the leg, bumping my partner forward, and coming right into position here. All right? And then we can go into all of our attacks. So we have a lot of options between pulling our partner towards us. If she tries to pull away from me, we push our partner backwards. If she allows me to pull her forward with the near hand, then we just go into the near leg right away and go into all of our options from here. If she goes to strip my grip like an intelligent opponent will, this will always give us access to the rear hand, where now we can pull our partner through and off balance them. We can pull our partner in and go into Ashigurami on the near leg, X guard in the near leg, Ashi X in the near leg. Or we can start to pull our partner's leg forward and go into any form of Ashigurami entrances on the far leg as well. All right? There's so many options that we can play from here, and this is all starts with winning the grip fighting battle to either draw our partner's near leg towards us or their far leg towards us. All right, so now we're going to look at the introduction to Diashi Arai against a standing staggered opponent. Okay, you see Diashi Arai is being used a lot in judo, where my opponent maybe takes an overtie, and I start walking my partner forward, and we start sweeping out the lead leg. Okay, we start getting off balance here. We can use Diashi Arai down on the floor. My partner has a staggered stance and attempts to take a big cross step in this direction. Now, just like we talked about, when my partner switches to a staggered stance and I switch to a staggered stance, I know which direction my partner has to pass. Okay? So if my partner wants to engage my guard, she can do it in one of two ways. She can step to the inside of my legs and start passing from here, which is a good option, or she can step across my hip line in this direction and start to create back exposure and start putting passing pressure, or I have to quickly readjust or fall to my back to counter that. Knowing that these are the two options, I have good options for both. Right now, what we're going to look at is going across in this direction. Okay? Because my partner goes to take a cross step, what I'm always looking to do is to scoot into the position my partner was just standing in. There's a reason for that. What I don't want is for my partner to go take a cross step across my hips and for me to scoot straight back. She's always going to just keep walking around my hips. So what it'll look like is if your partner's in a seated guard, she has her right leg forward. If she just tries to go straight backwards, I just keep walking. And then you eventually get behind your partner because you're much faster than them. But if my partner tries to get behind me and I start circling in this position, when she goes to beat me behind my back, I can always circle and block my partner's foot. Okay? During this transition, there's two positions that you can play with your lead foot. You can play inside your partner's lead leg or outside your partner's lead leg. So you have a choice. When your partner goes to raise this lead foot in any capacity, you can move it into this position here, where now you can go into shin-to-shin positions, or your partner has a relatively squared stance, where you can start to off-balance your partner's far leg, or scoot into Ashigurami and go into any of the previous moves. So you have that good choice. If your partner goes to raise the leg, you can feed it in like so. Another great option we have is to go into Diashi Arai, where my partner goes to step across, we start to off-balance our partner in this direction. Okay? This is a very useful move when you chain together with trying to feed your partner's leg across. Okay, so let's say my partner goes to step across my hips, I gotta block my partner's foot. She tries to step across again, I try to block my partner's foot. Now this time, on the third try, what she thinks is gonna happen is I'm gonna start blocking your foot the same way I just was. But that's not what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna look to do now is I'm gonna look to subtly take my foot to the outside position. And that's when we can start to go into attacking our opponent. So whenever we're in a squared stance or with a staggered stance, and I see my partner take a cross step, this is our cue for Diashi Arai. If our partner's in a squared stance as well, let's say she quickly switches her feet and goes to step across in this direction, we can go Diashi Arai, and we can start off balancing our partner, okay? So we play mainly between Koichi, where we start to harass our partner's feet like so, and go in, and Diashi Arai from the outside, where our partner goes to take cross steps across our guard. Okay, and if we play this dilemma between exposing the center line with Koichi Gari, both double and single, and exposing our partner's back with Diashi Arai, we can start to really off-balance our partner and put that pressure from bottom position that we were starting to talk about when we first started. All right, so the first Diashi Arai sequence we're going to look at is actually sweeping your partner down to the mat. Now, there's a variety of reactions that can happen when you go for Diashi Arai. Okay, one of the most common ones is when you sweep your partner, they actually fall completely down. All right, so my partner, I'm sitting in front of my partner. I feel like it's hard for me to make grips. My partner's doing a good job of moving away, moving in, moving away, moving in, and she starts to threaten cross-stepping. Okay, now tactically we can play with a few things. We can either block our partner's foot as she goes to step across, and I can start blocking my partner's foot. She resets. She goes to step across again, I block my partner's foot. And then maybe on the third try, as she goes to step, we off-balance our partner. Okay? Or we can just do it right from the beginning. As our partner goes to step across, we just go right for the off-balance. Now, if my partner is trying to be heavy on the lead leg, she'll always fall straight to her butt. If my partner goes to step and she realizes that this foot's being compromised and she leans her weight to her far leg, she will never fall. Okay, but if she tries to be assertive with this step and goes to step, she'll always fall right down to her butt. So let's look at let's look at what that looks like. As we're playing in here, our partner goes to take a step across, and we subtly move our foot from the inside position to shoelaces to the outside. Now, the further our foot is away from our partner's foot, the less effective this will be. What will happen is if you have a big distance, your partner will step, she'll stay planted, and then just kick your partner's foot. This isn't a support leg where you just block your partner's foot and she falls over. This is always an action leg, where we have to catch her foot stepping and pull it further than she wanted to step, okay? The easiest way to achieve this is to have my foot as close as possible to my partner's foot. If it's out here and she tries to step and I go to catch, it'll look like this. Whereas if she goes to step and I'm right connected to it, I can always get her easily off balance, okay? So as my partner goes to step, if she has an assertive front lead leg, it's going to be easy to set my partner right down to her butt. So as she goes to step, we just pull through, and she'll fall right down to her butt in front of you. This is great. Now you have a variety of options from here. You can go to the far hip, and you can scoop behind your partner. I know this looks like it would never happen, but if you get good at this, it happens all the time. You can go far hip and scoop behind your partner. Most of the time, your partner will immediately turn to face you, and the elbow will come across the center line. Okay. The determining factor on whether or not you can get to your partner's back is this elbow position. If their elbow stays across your center line, you can easily come through and get to the far hip, and now you can get strong chest to back connection, where you can attain this precious chest to back, and now you have your partner's back essentially. If they turn to face you and the elbow comes across the center line the opposite way, now you can never get chest to back. Okay, so depending upon your partner's elbow position is going to determine whether or not you sweep your partner or you take their back. If they start turning to face you, you can easily come in and scoop your partner's leg and start pulling your partner in and then going into all of your attacks in the legs. You can additionally, as your partner goes to face you, just come up and drive your head to the far shoulder and take a hand inside of your partner's leg. So now as your partner goes to put you back in guard, you can pin a leg down and step right into leg drag positions. Or now you can easily go into all these positional passes from here. The main thing that we're going to focus on in this DVD, obviously, is just getting your partner to their butt. Okay, we're going to go into some Ashigurami X guard attacks later. I'm not going to go into all the leg locks and stuff. That's a different instructional. But the main thing is just to sweep your partner down to their butt, and then go into attacks from there. All right. So I have a partner standing in front of me. As she goes to step across, if she is assertive with this lead leg, she'll always fall down. So we're playing here. I'm going inside, I'm going inside, I'm going inside. Then as she goes to step, I sit my partner down to the butt. And now from here, what happens most of the time is I go to come up, I go inside my partner's leg. So as we both go get up now, I can always get to my partner's far hip. I can drive my partner through and move right into a position where I'm going into leg drag. Okay. Worst case scenario, she brings the knee back in front and she recovers guard, and you end up in top position. Okay. So if your partner goes to really step with that lead leg and they try to take an assertive step past your hip line, and the weight is on the lead leg, you're always going to be able to sweep that foot right out, and your partner's going to fall essentially right into your lap. All right, so now we're going to look at using the Ashi Harai to create back exposure. Okay, always playing the dilemma between the center line and the back. If we can play a dilemma-based game between exposing your partner's center line and entering into the limbs, and exposing your partner's back and obviously taking your partner's back, everything becomes much, much easier. Okay, so now let's start to talk about what happens when our partner doesn't fall down, but does get off balance. So she stands in front of me, and from here, she goes into step, and I go Diachi. Now, this back exposure, the question is, how do I take advantage of this? I'm going to immediately go to my partner's far hip, and I'm going to suit in like so. Now, initially, I go 2 hips, and I pull my partner in. Now, most people will tell you to play from this position. The issue is, if your partner grabs your heels, like so, and I try to extend my partner down and away from me, it's going to be difficult, okay? In addition, she can start taking 2 hands to one of my legs, taking your hand down to my, taking your head down to my ankle, and start extending my right leg and backstepping over my leg, and she pulls my heel up. And now she can start entering into my legs. This is bad news for me. So instead of having symmetrical legs in this position, I always choose to go asymmetrical. You can do this in one of 2 ways. You can either take your shin across your partner's 2 legs, like so, and then you take your second leg and you move it down to your partner's ankle. When your partner goes to pull your leg out from here and enter into your legs, it's impossible. And in addition, it gives you an incredible ability to push your partner's foot out and away and drop her down to a hip, or drop her down to her butt. It's the same principle as the Tewaza techniques and the Diashi Harai. Push along the line of the floor in line with the toes. And you can easily drop your partner down to their butt. Okay? So when I hit the initial Diashi, she goes to step across, I grab the far hip. Now I scoot in and I'm immediately here. Now before my partner has access to my 2 feet, I take my foot across and I connect my shoelaces to her far buttocks. So my leg is across my partner's hips. Now when she goes to access my 2 legs, it's impossible. And the second this happens, I go from behind my partner's hamstring to behind my partner's ankle. When she tries to base out or do all those things to not let me take her over, she'll fall over every single time. Okay? It's just a much better way of doing things. If I take my partner into that position where she's turned around and she grabs my 2 heels, it's incredibly hard to off-balance your partner from here. So before she grabs my heels, I immediately move into this position. Now when she goes to turn and face me or base, we can easily set our partner down like so. If you feel like there's space, so your partner gives you a little bit more space, she's posting on her hands like so, and you feel like you can't come up, this is a very common response, or if like I can't climb to get to my partner's back and I can't extend her or sit her down, I move to a position where not only is my shin across, but I insert my knee inside like so. Where now I take an overhook on my partner's leg. Now when she goes to move around, I can start to extend this leg away from me, and now you have a variety of good options from here. You can either put your partner's knee in the floor and move to a turtle position, or now you can start attacking your partner's back from there. Or you can put the knee on the floor and start taking a fall strip over your partner's leg and rotating to go into cross ashigarami entrances and go right into attacking your partner's legs. And in addition, if your partner chooses to sit back on top of you now and start to try to turn to face you, the beauty of this is, what I don't want is for my partner to step over with this leg and to face me. That's no good. Because I have control of my partner's far hip and I have a free hand, I can always post on my partner's rear deltoid and grab my partner's hip here. So when her right hand comes across to try to cross face me and come and turn and face me, this hand blocks it. When she tries to take this leg and step over in this direction, my left hand controls my partner's hip. So even if my legs aren't in place, when she goes to turn the hip out, it's very, very difficult. So I control the hip from rotating, and I control my partner's legs with almost an X guard here. where I block the back of the leg from coming this way and the front of the leg from moving forwards. So when my partner goes to move and try to turn to face me and she goes to move around, I can always extend my partner out and away. And now all I need to do is lock a back-headed arm of any kind. Or I lock a back-headed arm, and now my partner goes to bring her back out to the floor and her hips out to the floor and scoop up, down and away from me. It's very easy for me to always make adjustments where we can come up and go into attacks right from there. All right, so a couple of ways to use the Ashi Harai to expose your partner's back. Your partner goes to step across. You don't get them knocked down, but you create back exposure. Initially, I come in, I put my 2 feet behind my partner's ankles, and then I immediately switch to bringing my shin. Actually, let's rotate right. My shin across my partner's legs. So that from here, she has no access to my ankles. Now we can easily extend our partner out and away, and now we can drop our partner right into our lap very easily without any danger of her entering into our legs. If my partner, for example, were to put her hands on the floor, so I feel like I can't climb up, then I go again asymmetrical, and I bring my knee inside this time, and I lock. Now I put my partner's knee in the floor. I do this by extending my right leg up and taking my partner's heel off the ground. As the heel comes off the ground, I scissor my legs and I put her knee in the floor. Now I can either pendulum up and get to my partner's back, or take a fall strip over my partner's leg, post the head, invert the leg, and now from here you can roll through in the cross Ashigurami. Or if my partner goes to sit back on top of me, we go to the far hip, and we form an X on our partner's far leg. We block our partner's near side deltoid. So as she goes to use the hand to face me, the rear deltoid is blocked, the far hip is blocked, and the far leg's blocked. When she tries to move out in any direction, all I need to do is bring her hips down to the floor and lock any kind of back, head, and arm. Where from here, now she goes to move away, it's pretty easy to recover your partner's back. And now you can go in and go for the leg. Okay, so that's creating back exposure off the Ashi Harai. All right, so now we're going to look at chaining the Ashi Harai and double Koichi together. So when we try to expose our partner's back and we fail and they readjust, the center line is most of the time exposed. Okay, so if my partner's smart and she's an advanced leg pommeler, when she goes to step and she sees my foot coming behind the leg, she won't plant her foot down and get off balance. What she'll do is she'll pommel the leg to a position and step her leg back, and we'll end up here, right? This is the exact moment now where we follow up with a double Koichi because we have our partner center line exposed. Okay, so we start to give our partner these issues where she initially gives me no back exposure and no center line exposure. If she plants the foot, she gives me a ton of back exposure. If she pommels the foot, she gives me all the center line exposure I need. So what it's going to look like now is we're playing from a staggered stance. Our partner goes to step across. As we go to hit a diashi, that fails. And now immediately from here, we're going to hop in. And again, because we're in a symmetrical stance, we can go with the attacking this leg with our action leg or attacking this leg with our action leg. Either way, I'm going to hop in and immediately come through. And now again, once again, we have an action leg pulling our partner's leg out. And we push and pull our partner's foot and then come up to top position. All right, so we have to start to look to change things together now on talented opponents. So we're playing in here, we're playing, we're harassing our partner's feet. She goes step across, that fails, and then we're in and we're ready to go into attacks. She goes step across, that fails, and the second that foot comes out, we come through, we can go in for a double Koichi. She steps a leg back, and then next thing you know, we're shin to shin. So there's a ton of options we have from here. We're playing with our partner, we're trying to harass, we can't make any grip. She goes step across, pommels out, and then from here we go right in. A lot of times what it will look like is she goes to commit to the step. And now midway through, before she steps her leg, is when she pommels back through. And then immediately we come in, and we start to off balance our partner. All right, so we go Diashi Harai to expose the back. Then she readjusts, pommels the leg free, center line's exposed, double Koichi, and then we play off of all of our options if she either falls down or steps the leg back, going in shin to shin, single Koichi, or Ashigurami X guard entrances. All right, so now let's talk about entering into a shin-to-shin position from a distance, right, where my partner is far away from me, wherever the exchange is, and from here, she goes to step into me. There's two ways that I can enter into shin-to-shin. Once again, I can either catch my partner after she steps and physically block her foot, or I can catch her mid-step and feed her foot shin-to-shin. All right, so she staggers her stance, we're at a relative distance. As she goes to walk towards me, I can either block the foot one. Sometimes I'll block the foot like so, and either we come in shin to shin here, or this second foot steps towards me a little bit. She takes like a stutter step. Like, let's say she doesn't expect to she wants to put her foot here, but it stops here instead. I stop the foot, and the second foot steps towards me. Now we can go double kuichi, and we can enter into the far leg as we want, if that happens. A lot of times, most of the time what happens is as your partner goes to walk towards you, you block the foot after she steps, and we feed. What we want to make sure of when we feed into a shin-to-shin position is that we keep a connection to our partner's leg. So initially, we block with the sole of our foot, and we mold the sole of our foot to our partner's leg like so. Now we come through and we catch initially with our hand. So now we have a wedge in the back of our partner's calf muscle and a wedge in front of our partner's ankle. So if she does lift her foot out and she tries to pull it away, I can always follow it with my hand and my foot. Then from here, we pommel our left shin on top of our right foot, and then we take our right foot out. So now we have 2 feet to the inside position, and now we have a replacement wedge on front of my partner's ankle. So if she tries to move her leg around, we can always follow it very, very easily. Okay? So that's the first way. Our partner goes to step in, we come towards our partner. We can move forward and backwards because we have a staggered stance. So I don't have to wait for her to come to me. I can meet her halfway in the middle. So as she goes to walk towards me, I meet her, and now I catch. 1, 2. 1, 2 with a false grip over my partner's calf muscle. Now from here, as she goes to move the leg around, we can easily feed to a shin-to-shin by taking our left leg and replacing our right foot. Now we're ready to go into all of our attacks. The second way that we can feed from a shin-to-shin into a shin-to-shin is we can physically catch our partner's leg and sweep it and pass it off to our left foot, like so. So as our partner goes to step, instead of waiting until she steps and blocking it, I can catch her as she steps and go in to a shin-to-shin. And now because my partner's feet are squared, we can either go right into an Ashigarami entrance or go with a single kuichi and knock our partner down. Okay? So our second way is we meet her. We don't wait for our partner to step towards us. This gives her the initial edge on her footwork. When she walks towards me and there's no harassment, now she can start to immediately go into her passes and gripping. So I time my partner. As she goes to walk towards me, we feed the leg in, and now we're ready to go in, either here, underneath, moving into X guard on the far leg, whatever you guys want to go into attacks right from there. All right, so 2 ways to feed into an initial shin-to-shin. One is our partner is at distance. She goes to step towards me, and I block the foot, and now I feed in. I make sure that I don't switch right from here to here. There's no stickiness. As she goes to back her leg away from me, it moves away very easily. Whereas now we connect 1, 2. When she goes to move away from me now, we can easily come through and have that initial stickiness we talked about. Second option is as she goes to walk into me, I catch it as she's stepping, and we feed right in like so. Where now we can go into a variety of attacks that we looked at previously right from there.